o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call the council to the council work session number 21-11 order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Ready.
Here.
Temple.
Here.
First item that we have this evening is a closed session under Iowa Code Section 21.5(1)(c) to discuss strategy of council on matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And vote, please.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Ready. Temple.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And then they run in free mode from 9 p.m. until about 8 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. And the purpose of that is so that when somebody on the side street comes up during this period of time when there's not a lot of through volume, that they get served more quickly. So it's a gap out process. So if there's no other vehicles coming, it changes over to serve that side street traffic. Currently, the Johnston Drive and Merlehead Road traffic or intersection is running in free mode during the AM peak hour, and that was due to the construction on 62nd Avenue. When we closed that road for that construction, there was a lot of detour traffic using Johnston Drive, and we just couldn't give that east leg enough time based on the coordinated plan to make it function correctly. So once this is open, now Beaver Drive is closed, so we're probably just gonna have to monitor Johnston Drive and see if the volumes have gone down and if we can kick that back into coordinated mode for the AM. The 2021 traffic projections, there was a question about that in the summary memo. That was based on opening day traffic from the Ignite and City Park development. The existing traffic was based on a previous traffic count that we grew to 2021 volumes, and then we added that Ignite traffic on top of that. If you have any questions, just stop me. The 2046 projections, the question was to confirm that the traffic was redistributed to the other roadways during that 2046 timeframe. specifically the eastbound to southbound right turn lane. The map's kind of small, but in our 2046 model, we took the Gateway master plan and we added all those roads to our model, and we distributed the traffic based on all of those roads, including the circular road from Johnston Drive serving that Ignite site. So while we would expect that certain movements would go up at Johnston Drive and Merle Hay Road intersection, there, as you can see from this map, there is a lot more circulation in that area. So that's kind of why it might not look like we expected, or like other people have expected. The next question was why we only looked at the PM peak hour and not the AM. So this is the, well, just a little bit thin. Oh, the wrong way, other way. So this is the actual traffic volume entering the Johnston Drive and Merle Hay Road intersection. And the orange line is the total entering vehicles for the peak hour, the off-peak hour, and the PM peak hour. So as you can see, when we looked at the PM peak hour, we're actually looking at the highest peak hour of the day. So when you're looking at improvements, that means, you know, if we do it for the PM peak hour, that is covering the AM peak hour. And as you can see, most of the movements are higher. Those are all the directional volumes down there at the bottom. So they're all higher in the PM peak than they are in the AM peak. There was a question about adaptive traffic signal systems. I attached to the end of this memo the Federal Highways Guide on Adaptive Traffic Signal Systems. Basically, the places that they're most effective is for arterials that have high variability or unpredictable traffic demand. So Merle Hay Road is actually a very predictable traffic pattern. With the Ignite site coming in, we might see some variability on the weekends, but as far as daily traffic goes, the patterns today are pretty much the same patterns as they were, you know, and they have been. So adaptive traffic signal control costs about $30,000 to $50,000 an intersection. We have a very good traffic data center where we can control all of our traffic signals with some retiming plans. We can develop an event traffic signal plan, timing plan, if the Ignite site is causing us issues that we can implement on those really heavy event times. I really feel like we're pretty set up for this corridor, and that adaptive is not really necessary at this time. Pedestrian movements. How does the coordinated signal timings impact the intersection? So when we develop coordinated signal timings, we're only concerned about the vehicle. So we take the pedestrians off the table. What happens then is when the pedestrian pushes the button, the coordinated cycles break and allow that pedestrian access for the full amount of time it takes the pedestrian to cross the road. The reason we do this is that typically the time that it takes a pedestrian to cross is longer than we want to give some of the signal timings to those movements based on the volume. And so that's why when we're looking at purely vehicles, we omit that. But the pedestrian is served every cycle if it needs to be by pushing the button. If there becomes a high number of pedestrians at the intersection, we're probably going to want to rethink that and probably include the pedestrian timings within our coordinated traffic signal timings. However, a lot of times that higher pedestrian peak does not happen at the same time as the vehicle peak. It just depends. Then there were just a couple of design questions. One was the shift through the intersection. We were able to go back to the drawing board and shift some things around and increase the size of a median and do some other wiggling, I guess. And we were able to get the westbound shift down to 4 inches across the intersection, and then the eastbound shift is 4 foot 5.5. So we've significantly reduced that shift through the intersection. Accommodate locations to replant trees in the corridor. As we have been having all the property owner meetings, we have approached everyone with potential for adding trees to their right of way or to their property. And some have been very willing to work with us, and some are a little concerned based on the visibility of their business. But it is something that we will ask each property owner as we go through, and we're trying to put together an overall map that shows some areas where we could incorporate trees into the design. And then as far as the placement of the trail on the former Herd Garden property, we have a couple alignments I think we're almost ready to share with you, and there's a couple of options. One is to save some of the bigger trees by lining the trail. I think we can save the walnut, the bigger size walnut that's there no matter what. But then it's a matter of choosing some less desirable trees, maybe that would be off the right-of-way property versus some of the trees that are in the right-of-way. So we just want to share both of those options with you, and we will get those to Matt to get to you as soon as they're done. That was really fast. Does anyone have any questions about any of that?
I missed this part. You probably explained this about the adaptive traffic signal system at the intersection. So you, in your description up here, it says if it's an unpredictable traffic, that's when that's necessary, the adaptive signal control technologies. Can you explain that a little bit more for me on that part?
Yeah, so unpredictable means like a lot of variability in the traffic corridor. So in Johnston, we have people coming to work and leaving for work. And so we have a pretty typical traffic pattern along the road. If we were somewhere else and there was something that would cause a huge variability of traffic, like let's say you have, I'm going to say event center, but something bigger than Ignite, that you have this huge influx of traffic where you could have conferences during the day and conferences at night and all of these things, you may want to consider adaptive, because you just don't ever know when that big rush of traffic is coming at you.
I'm curious about this Ignite thing. So we really don't know how much traffic. Do you have a prediction of how much traffic will be at this particular point in time when the Ignite is up and running? Do we have that numbers?
We do. That was, it's in the traffic study that was provided previously. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
Trying to understand the part of the predictability, unpredictability. I'm just not sure that the Ignite, when the Ignite project is up and running, we'll have a predictable traffic at that point in time.
And I guess that's something that could be monitored. So I agree that there probably is not going to be predictability on the weekends. And I guess it remains to be seen with Ignite how much that spreads into the weekday traffic.
Part of it, but the weekday as well, in the after hours, this evening hours when there's a lot of activities happen. Schools are done at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Everybody wants to go to Ignite, and there's some events happening. At the same time, there's traffic of the office people leaving for home or coming back from the offices. That traffic also is there as well as this traffic. So that becomes a little bit more unpredictable at that point in time. So I'm just wondering if this is something we should look at.
Personally, I think that the Merle-Hick corridor in Johnston has traffic volumes, I'm going to say low, even though they're not low, that can be handled during regular traffic signal timing upgrades instead of spending the additional money on the adaptive system. Adaptive systems seem to be in corridors that are like 45 to 50,000 vehicles a day. And we're more like 25,000.
Fair enough. I'm not questioning your judgment here. I'm just trying to understand what the traffic, we cannot predict what the traffic is, but I think it might be a good idea to revisit this at a later point in time. So just saying, okay.
And that's very valuable.
Yeah.
Depending on what the traffic will generate.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions from the law? Thank you, Molly.
Thanks, Molly. The second half of the conversation tonight surrounding the intersection project is also to receive some feedback. We're progressing through our design phase for that, for the intersection, and would like to know what council's desire is to take the overhead electric and convert it to underground through this segment of the corridor of the project. This will also aid with the trail alignment within the right-of-way and just kind of clean up the general aesthetics through that segment of Merle Hay Road. We did approach Mid-American. They did give us a cost estimate. It is roughly about $1.4 million to convert the overhead to electric. And that roughly runs from the interstate up to Northwest 55th. And then that would also be, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a little bit along Johnston Drive as well through our project limits. I did, the $1.4 million was not in our original project budget. However, I did speak with Teresa earlier today. On a cursory review, we believe that we can find some use for that signalization money that we had discussed last week. It's very close. I'd want to take a deeper dive into the finances and report back to council on that, but would just really looking to get some feedback to see if council desired to take that electric from overhead to underground.
I would be supportive. I think that, especially when you're talking about signalization.
Yeah, we've got some additional monies that we can put towards the project on an old signalization project that would help be able to utilize some of the other money towards taking that electric from overhead to underground.
Cost, I was hoping that it would be something less than that. I don't notice the poles and wires when I go up Merle Hay, but I think that, we need to plan for the future. We need to build for the future. And it's always better to put the wires underground than to have them hanging in the air and subject to all kinds of weather conditions. So, if we have the money, Teresa's looking at me like.
Yeah, take the mask off, Teresa, so we know.
I have my mask on. I did meet with Matt
Reiner about this afternoon, and Matt Stuffel will have more information, but we did get a pretty good premium with the bond sale today. And so I told him he might as well keep that premium in case we decided to do something like this, or the fact that the bids were much higher than, or the estimates much higher than it was a year ago. I guess construction.
Hardly have it in our hands and we have it spent. No, I
do have $1 million
Whoops,
coming in
excuse
from
me.
RISE money now, and that's helpful.
So, it'll make the corridor look a lot nicer. It's better for the wires to be underground. If we have the funding to pay for it, I guess I'm comfortable with it as well. Others?
Want to see an example? We did go underground right out here at 62nd and Merle Hay. So if you go south, you'll see the poles. Part of, I think, the high cost for that too is it's their transmission main that runs down Merle Hay. So it was probably a little bit more expensive is why too.
They get a lot of benefit out of it, and it's unfortunate that they don't reflect that in the price. So I share the mayor's frustration with that it isn't cheaper. So, but at the same time, I also think from a long-term planning perspective.
They get the benefit of them being underground and they don't have to come out and make major repairs.
That's right, exactly, yes, exactly. That was the point I was trying to make, so, yeah.
I totally agree with where we're going with this, and I'm hoping that maybe Janet got before and after pictures on the wires being buried, because it, like you said, Mayor, I didn't really notice it at first, but then I started noticing the beautiful new streetlight fixtures. And then I was like, where's the wires are gone. Really nice. And I know, Mayor, we've been on many public safety meetings where along Northwest Beaver, the new trail project, it was the same discussion. Do we have money to put this underground? And it seems to me maybe going forward, we should plan on putting the utilities underground and in our original cost estimates but when we start budgeting, just like I'd like to include landscaping in these projects. So.
Direction?
I do, thank you.
Okay, we are at 7 o'clock. We probably can't get through C quickly.
Matt? It's probably about a 10-minute or 15-minute conversation. We can do it in staff comments.
Okay, let's carry C and D over into the end of the regular meeting then. Okay. With that, we will adjourn the Johnson City Council work session. Do we need to take a break or should we just press forward?
I'm good.
Good.